Hello, my name's Rob and welcome to Swift Slots. Now this video is a little bit different from my normal content, and if there's any background noise, we've got a storm outside, so ignore that. So a few months ago, a fellow club member of mine asked me if I could help him make a track because he'd seen Crow Valley. Now he wasn't very good with tools, he didn't really have the space, so I said I'd give him a hand, and I said I would route out all the top boards and I'd put the frames underneath and give him some advice, and then he could take it away and carry on. So that's kind of gone a little bit mad now, so I ended up having to mark out the track, route the groove, frame up the underside, and then paint the top surface and then joint the boards. But it's all done now and he's ready to take it away and carry on. So I thought I would take this opportunity to, just before it leaves me, to show you around the track and show you what I've done and how I've done it, because it might be useful for other people out there wanting to make a rally track, and I just thought I'd show it to you. I didn't video it while I made it because this was really for the club mate and I wasn't really thinking about videos, but just before it leaves me I thought I'd make a quick video of it with the owner's blessing. So I'll get you on my table and I'll show you what I've made and how I made it. So here are some stills of the track, and hopefully you can tell it's supposed to be an airfield with a service road at the back, forest in the front or woods, and a car park over to the right hand side. So I'll get you on the bench and I'll show you the boards in person. So here is board 1, and hopefully you can tell this is the car park, and we've got a textured surface on there sprayed on with some Rust-Oleum texture paint, and then over the top of that some Tamiya matte XF colours just airbrushed all over, just various tones, some green around the outside, various greys on the middle, and then once that was all dry I just rubbed off the top of the Tamiya paint to reveal the textured paint beneath it, and that gives this really textured speckly surface. And the surface is, it's not rough but it's not smooth either, so hopefully with a bit of matte varnish over the top of all this you should get a nice slippery surface that's not too grippy, so a bit drifty in the car park on the gravel as you might expect. So we come out of the car park onto the service road. Now this service road is only sprayed to give a base for the actual road, because there'll be a lot more gravel and textures and cracks that you could add to this, but this is just a base coat to allow the club member to sort of carry on modelling it as they want to. So obviously you come off down the service road here and onto the other boards, but in regards of this particular board here, we've got obviously the end section of the wooded section or the muddy section. I believe there'll be some banks here and some trees and so on and so forth, and you've just got the look of a gravel track running through this whole board and out onto the board number 2. And recessed into the bottom of the board here you've got a 2 amp 3-pin plug, and all I've done there is I've sanded the outside of the ceramic plug and I've recessed it into the board and put 2 fresh screw holes in there and screwed it to the board just to make it nice and flush and keep it all out the way. Looks a bit neat. And on the back of the board, as you can see, I've thickened up the wood just on the back here underneath the plug, so the plug electronics are all kept out the way and nice and safe, and it gives you some extra material to screw into. And all the framework is made of 2 inch by 1 inch planed and square edged or PSE planed wood, all just simply screwed to the baseboards, screwed through the ends with 1.5 inch screws through here and 1.5 inch screws through the belt board onto the framework. And then the club member has painted it all in grey primer to keep it from the weather. So the baseboards themselves are made of 12mm MDF and the framework is just ordinary pine. And here is a continuation of board 1 onto board 2. Now this board 2 is a little bit different. We have the service road still going along, which needs obviously extra detailing, and we have a continuation of the mud or gravel path running through the trees or the woods or the shrubbery, whatever he's going to put here. We've also got this removable section here, which at the moment is just a straight through run, but the idea of this is to be able to take it out and add in some wibble wobble, some mounds or tumps or whatever he wants to add on there. That's a removable section that can add a little bit of extra feature to the actual track, whatever ends up being made there, some big hills or I don't know, maybe even a dip, I'm not entirely sure. So that's what this removable piece here is, and I shall show you the back of it now. So here is the underside of the track. You can see we've got 3 supporting pieces holding this loose piece in. Now eventually this will have some twist latches on either ends to hold it down, and that'll probably be enough. This piece here may need to go if he's going to make a dip, or it'll probably stay if he's going to make a hump on it, but that's for him to decide. It's there if he wants to take it away or whatever. You could also hold the end down with some really powerful magnets perhaps, or my option would just be a couple of twist clamps, but that's down to him to sort out whichever way he wants to do it. And obviously this is the runway. Hopefully it shows. Now we did take inspiration from a real picture of a runway just to get an idea of some of the markings, although they may not be exactly what you would see on a runway that would be used for a rally track. Sometimes modelling has to sort of look right rather than be right. Sometimes it just needs to have the feel, and it needs to be sometimes quite obvious. Then just a piece of old waste tarmac, that probably wouldn't look like an airfield. It might not give the right idea. You might not see it as a runway straight off the bat when you approach the track for the first time. So I think making it looking like a runway is probably a better option. So also this goes the same with these panels here. I don't suppose there's a runway in the world that looks like this. But I think, again, it needs to look like something. It needs to have a visual interest. It needs to give some sort of cues of being a used piece of tarmac. Although tarmac never looks like this, I think it gives a decent impression of tarmac subconsciously. And I think it gives the right idea and the right tone of the whole layout. So the way I made the actual panels here is I cut this piece of cardboard and just literally plonked it on the square, put a bit of extra cardboard around the outside with some weights, and literally just sprayed in different tones of Tamiya grey, Tamiya white and Tamiya black just around each section. And once I'd actually sprayed the panel, I got a stiff scrubbing brush and just went once or twice up and down the panel to give these scrape marks in it, just to sort of give the illusion of something sort of running lengthways rather than it just being a flat tone. If you look on this board, you can see there's granulation running the length of the runway. I just thought it gave it a little bit more tone. So down the bottom here, you've got the ingression of the mud coming from the forestry section. And over here, you've obviously got the roads coming in and out. Now, this track also has the ability to remove the middle section, the one with the removable section in it. That can actually come out because this point here and these points here, the same as Crow Valley that I made before, these actually line up with board 1 as well. So you could have this as a shorty track or a long track. All the lines will line up anyway. So obviously there are mainly two different ways to get power to the track: inlaid braid or sticky copper tape. So this track, for simplicity's sake, is going to have sticky tape. And the way I've designed this tape is I've got these countersunk holes with screws, with drill holes in the end. And what the club member will do, he will lay his copper tape straight off the end of the board and down the straight or down the track, just like this. He will then get a pen or a pencil or whatever and stab the center of the copper to leave a nice recess, and then get some wire, his feed wire. This is too small, but this is just for demonstration. Scrape off the insulation off the end, tin the wire, and then thread it through the back of the board like that. And with and then tin the copper, bring the wire back level with the end, and then just solder the wire to the copper tape, and that will give you a really nice connection all the way through. And do that at both ends, and that will be great. And then to actually bring the power from each board, there'll be XT60 connectors, picture here, and they will go on the end of all the cables grouped together, positive and negative, so you can link the two boards together. Now the way that I've done the joints here, we're using what we call in the cabinet making trade as biscuit joints, and I'll bring the other one up on screen now. So here we can see the biscuit joint in its entirety. You've got basically a half moon cut here done by the biscuit jointer and a half moon cut here done by the biscuit jointer, and this is just an elliptical piece of compressed beechwood that's glued into one side, this side in this case, and then once it's all dry, that tongue literally just goes into that groove as a temporary joint. Obviously in cabinet making we'd use them to fix panels together for tabletops and all sorts of other things, but in this instance we're using it as a temporary fixture just to line all the boards up, and they work really, really well. What I tend to do is I tend to wax the biscuit as well. The club member has painted over this one, so I've had to scrape it off a bit because otherwise it makes it too thick and a bit too tight, but I've scraped off the paint and put a bit of wax on it, so now those two joints really slide together really, really nicely, and you can see all the markings out here that I've made ready for wiring. So that's the jointing all sorted out. And to hold all these joints all together nice and tightly, we'll be using these clamps here, which will simply screw onto the fascia of the board. Once he's got his fascias all on and the backboards and so on, at each joint we'll just be using these adjustable clamps that will screw straight onto there like that, no problem. So you just lift up the arm, that releases the latch, and we can just disassemble or reassemble as required. And to get this internal angle to clamp, we've taken one of these brackets and just curled it around a little bit tighter, and then this pull latch will simply screw to this vertical board here and go in just like that. And for those that are interested, these boards are 4.5 feet long, 2 feet wide. They're on 1 inch by 2 inch softwood frames with a 1/2 inch top, so the whole set of 3 stacked together is 7 inches high. Now obviously there's backboards to go on this and fascias and trees and other details, but I think I've got them to a state now where the club member can take it away and finish it in the way that he wants to with the surfaces that he wants to put on them. So that concludes showing you the track. Back to the table. So there we are. That's how I made the track for the club member so that he can take it away and carry on. Now there will be other tracks on this channel that I'm going to make for myself, and I will video them all the way through. One of them is a 3-lane oval track for 1/25th scale oval racing. I'd really want to make that track very, very soon. And also is another rally special stage, but modelled on mud, like a hard pack mud. It's like the last stage that you would run on a big rally event, often held in arenas and so on. Make something like that, bit twisty, a little bit off camber, a little bit tricky, a little bit challenging. So that's what I'll be doing on this channel as well for a future date. But that's for later on. So if you've enjoyed this content, maybe you'll subscribe. And if you could hit the little bell button, that'll be awesome. So until the next time, thank you very much.